Okay, guys, in this video right here, what I want to do is I want to go over one of the basic wrap mechanic drills that I do with my students to help them understand how natural the wrap motion is, which is hitting, if you're not familiar with what the wrap is, used a lot in the SCA, used by advanced fighters in steel fighting, and is often discounted, you know, unfortunately, by a lot of the fighting communities, well, because they don't realize that the sword had two edges for a reason in a lot of cases. So the wrap is striking with the back side of the blade instead of just the front. And it's called a wrap generically in the SCA because it wraps around defenses. So instead of like hitting somebody's shield here, it'll come out and go around it. So let's throw the pel here. Instead of just hitting here, a wrap comes in around, right? So you can see how useful that is if somebody has their block up here and you can just reach all the way around and tag them anyways, or their shield, or whatever. You can still strike them. And done properly, it actually strikes really hard. So it's a backblade strike. I often just refer to it as backblades, but wrap shots, the SCA people will be more familiar with. So what I was doing right there is basically a big part of the drill, and you can see it with this wider blade training sword a lot better. So what you want to do is, the wrap motion is actually really very natural. And one of the ways to really get it down is start with your hand up here, bring it down, right? Like you're chopping down in front of you. And then you'll notice at about right here in front of you, it gets to be perpendicular to the front of you, right? Because really you can't really cross that way very well. But if you do like that, and then start to roll it, and then bring it up here, it's really natural, right? Kind of like a golf swing, right? You notice the plane of the hand? Turning back over, going forward, turning over. It's actually a perfectly natural motion. You can get this down by holding all sorts of objects. If you've got a sword, do it that way. If you've got a rattan sword, obviously you can do it that way as well. Sometimes if you turn the rattan sword around and hold it with the basket hilt away from your hand, that extra little weight gives it kind of that golf club type swing, that momentum-based swing. And this right here is what you want to do. This is the start of the motion. Going down, and then doing that rotation of the hand as it's progressing, right? So it should be halfway rotated by the time it gets in front of you. Kind of like you're slapping something there. But seriously, and then you just bring it up, and then it's backhanding, and then you're coming back down with that backhand, right? You're chopping down, and then you're rolling it into a backhand here. So, you know, if you got an unruly gnome, just comes down, there. So, with the trainer here, you can see it better because it'll reflect a little better. But the blade comes down, and then as it gets to about 45 degrees down here, it starts to roll. It starts to transition naturally. If you don't even force it, it'll just do that whole transition. So about here, it's straight up and down, right? So you want to, the moment it starts to move, you kind of start to transition. Right here, it's already turned about 45 degrees of what it's supposed to. So it's coming down and it's starting to turn, and then it hits here, and then it starts turning out. Boom. So take your sword, start up here, let it fall down, and just let your wrist loosely roll over. Roll this way, right? Here, roll over. Boom. And then bring it up here. Let the momentum carry it. There. Out here's one side of the blade. Out here's the other side of the blade, right? And after a little bit, you'll realize, wow, this There's no stress on my joints. There's no awkwardness. It's actually perfectly natural. You just take a stick and do this or whatever. It's actually a supernatural human motion, that particular change of the wrist orientation. So you can say the wrap is actually a very natural motion. So what you want to do is you want to do this all. Just get in the habit of doing this. Like you're kind of sweeping stuff on the ground or hitting stuff with your sword on the ground, flat. In any case, just roll up and down. Camera's a little awkward. This is the start of it, right? So you'll notice when you're doing this that you can take it from up here, from the starting side, and when you go down, you can actually impart it with a little more momentum. You can go boom, boom. I'm going to swap it out because it's a little heavy for me to do it with 5 billion times. But yeah, you'll see it like here, it comes down. You'll be able to whoop, whoop. Remember, sound effects are super important when you're training. So this going forward is the wrap motion, right? Be out here and boom, boom. That's the basic wrap motion. So once you've gotten this part down, get away from me, pal. Once you've got this part down where it's just like super natural, you can do both hands. You'll notice probably it feels even better with the left because you're not trying to over program it, right? It's just real nice little golf swing with it. So, back to the right. After you get this down, what you're going to want to do is, from doing it straight in front of you, turn yourself 90 degrees to that way, but keep the sword here, right? So all I have to do that is just rotate your feet. And you're still just doing the same motion. So now the wrap has gone from something that's just in front of you, here, right? To now it's actually can be targeted towards an opponent, right? So you can actually work this at first. Start from back here and throw low. Now you can come back, Mr. Pell, don't be mad. So you're here, right? And you go. If you want. So, working it along the side. After this starts to feel really nice and natural, right? Like it's flowing. I mean, my tendons aren't doing anything. There's like no, I'm using almost zero effort. I'm just using my hand to trigger the start of the motion. And it's super nice flow, super easy flow. Boom. And you reach it out to get deeper. So after a while, what you can do is you can start raising it up. So it's going like this, right? Straight up and down, which is not as practical for what we want. Sometimes you'll throw a J hook like this, but it's not as often. And then you start raising it higher. Then you start bringing it up here, right? See? And then you can raise it even higher. The important part is that. So from down here is that wrist roll. It's not something you have to force. If you use a momentum wrap, you don't have to put hardly any pressure on your wrist. Your wrist really doesn't get tired, right? And then you do it. You notice right here, boom, it's halfway turned over at the halfway point, and then it rolls over. Boom, boom. Really A little funky trying to film in square, but the square fits more formats easier. Phones and whatever. And then you can do it up here. It's a little different because it's hard to start here and then up over the top. So, but you can start like a wave. Oh. Let me back you up. You're too close for this. Okay, back here. Yeah, so we're at the side, right? Doing our wrap towards the front. Get a little higher, like shoulder height. Like I'm gonna throw a wrap to his shoulder. Boom. Boom. And then we're gonna go up high. Boom. Boom. The same sort of thing. It turns over halfway here, and by the time it connects, it's done its full rotation. So, boom. Almost like a wave. It's a little awkward. You're gonna wanna bring the elbow in a little more. But you get the idea. Once you get down this, and then you start getting it on the side, and then you get it a little higher. About right here at the midpoint is where it's going to be that sweet transition spot where you kind of figure, okay, if I cock the sword up back here, I can throw a wrap to all those positions, and I can throw it up high, and I can throw it horizontal. This is probably going to be the landing spot where you're going to end up eventually, for most of your shoulder or sword guarded wraps. Boom. So what you want to do, let's go in a little bit further, video getting long, but whatever, is that you want, as I said before, when you're throwing your wrap, you want it to start out kind of going forward, right? Cutting forward. Let me grab the heavy trainer, the wide-bladed piece of steel. You'll see here, I'm cutting forward, right? But as I get to about here, I start rotating, right? I want this to transition from like pretty much a flat snap. At this point here, the point to the side, I want it to start transitioning that roll. I want this to start rolling. So that when it comes out, I start to move it, I start to rotate it about right here. As soon as the blade gets parallel to my shoulder, the front of me, I want to start to roll it. And the goal is to get it nice and smooth, and so that it completes its full turnover right at the point of impact. So it completes its turnover right at the point of impact. So if I'm on abusing your fast friend, Mr. Tell here, I want to throw it, right? Comes here, and then it starts to roll over here. So this is just a variation of that, right? This motion here. You can see the back end, front end, back end, front end. But if I get it down, and it's nice and smooth like this, I mean, how many times have I gone back and forth here in this video with this little wrap motion? So many, and my my arm's not stressed at all. You can throw hundreds of these. But yeah, and then. So you want it to start that turnover, right? You're throwing it kind of like a snap, and then you're starting the turnover, and you're letting it roll naturally. The blade should be passing out in a wide arc. Boom. And then at the point of impact, it should have just completed its transition, right? Bam. Right at the moment. You don't want it to complete it. You don't want to get it out here and have it complete early and then just pull it in, right? You also don't want to sit there and I've seen people do this too many times. They'll start it out here, and then it'll already be backblade forward, and they just throw it like this, right? They just stiff arm it into. That's not a wrap, right? Plus, even if you roll it over early, too early, and then you just pull it in, it's gonna jar all these tendons in there and really blast your tendons here, give you really bad tendonitis. If you're not throwing a momentum wrap, you're just like kind of taking it and forcing it in. Also, I'm not a fan of the push me, pull me wraps, as I call them. You'll see a lot of people do, where they'll be here and they'll like punch their hand out and then they'll like pull the whole thing back at the last minute. So they're like, pop, that like super jars the hand. It doesn't strike with the same momentum as a large momentum wrap. And again, like I said, it just really racks the tendons. Doesn't get as good an angle, and it's not something you can just throw hundreds of and not hurt yourself, right? So work on the drill, a little golf swing in front. Have your students do it. This will teach them that it's a perfectly natural motion. Then turn to the side. Here you go. Still a nice, perfectly natural motion. Then just have them start bringing it up. The most important thing is that transition, right? Boom. 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 So that's my basic wrap drill. There's so much more refining you got to do with it to get it to hit the different targets, timing, everything. I mean, there's so many more mechanics to it, but that's the very basics of throwing a wrap. Now, you can obviously do it with a steel sword, right? Works great, actually. Contrary to all you disbelievers, heretics. And obviously with rattan for SCA, it's a very important shot for anybody, anything. So practice it, get back to me, I'll catch you later.